Bank of Canada made its usual announcement about interest rates on Wednesday morning, and it decided not to adjust the current rate. But there were some other interesting things that we learned with this report, and for some insight, let's connect with News 1130's business editor, Richard Dettman. Richard, good to see you. So no rate hike with Wednesday's announcement, but this statement removes all mentions of a need for future increases. What's up with this?
And that's the real news here, Kyle. Nobody expected a change from the interest rate, the key interest rate, that is. The Bank of Canada calls it its overnight rate, 1.75%. No change was expected there. The change that was expected did happen, removing any language about interest rate increases being necessary in, well, the indefinite term. It's called a tightening bias or a hawkish stand by Governor Stephen Poloz. And Canada had been a bit of an outlier on this. The U.S. had gone to a softer stance, also known as dovish, a while back. So had other central banks. And today the Bank of Canada capitulated on that issue.
So, Richard, we've had a number of hikes over the last year and a half. What is this going to do in terms of the course that they've set us on?
Well, it flattens it out for the foreseeable future, Kyle. No interest rate increases, at least for the rest of 2019. Remember that the Bank of Canada, starting in 2017, increased its key interest rate 5 times in a row. And then it stopped last October. And then we had basically a halt to the Canadian economy's growth at the end of 2018, driven in part by trade wars, but particularly the collapse in oil prices. So uncertainty prevailed.
Let's talk more about the other nugget we learned on Wednesday. The growth forecast for the year on our economy has been downgraded.
It's been downgraded to 1.2%, the Bank of Canada shaving half a percentage point off that growth of 1.7%. And that's really getting in line with private sector forecasts as well. Governor Stephen Poloz does see some optimism in the outlook. And he says, by the way, that if the central bank's forecast does pan out, and he has some confidence in that, that the next that move by the Bank of Canada could be an interest rate increase rather than a decrease.
So the dollar also took a tumble following Wednesday morning statement. What is all of this going to mean for the average person?
Well, we did see some fence walking or tightrope walking by Bank Governor Stephen Poloz today. After all, the initial statement that came out said that there would be no increase in interest rates for the foreseeable future. Down goes the dollar by half a cent. However, within an hour and a half of that news coming out, Poloz's news conference, he floats the idea of a possible interest rate increase. So he's really treading a pretty fine line there. And in fact, our dollar erased some of its decrease. But it's all about the difference between Canadian and U.S. interest rates. And of course, the U.S. isn't going to raise for a while. So your dollar is going to be stuck around 74, 75 cents U.S. U.S. dollar, $1.34, $1.35 or more Canadian.
You can always get more business news with Richard Dettman on the radio at News 1130 and weekday mornings on Breakfast Television. Thanks for joining us here on City News tonight, Richard.
You're welcome.